Hey guys! So today you and I are going to talk about being motivated. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, how do you stay motivated during a long and complex project? I have a secret and I'm going to tell you my secret, and I'm going to tell you, but I want you to know that I don't just do this for anybody, right? So my secret is that I really like what I do. That's my big secret. I'll break it down a little bit further so we can make this thing stretch for roughly 10 minutes I try to hit or something like that. But that's the core of it. I really love what I do, and that's my big secret sauce tip. So to stay motivated and so forth, regardless of it, I mean, honestly, for me, it's even more of a treat that it is a complex project, because something that gets all my nerd juices flowing is to deal with something that is truly complicated. Because trust me when I say this, it may not feel that way if you're a junior or anything like that, but at some point, building the same CRUD application versus like the same CRUD application you've built 100 times before with different entities within the domain is gonna be pretty much a done thing for you. It's something you've done, you've seen it, there's nothing exciting about it, it's boring as mud, and you don't really have any, you find yourself getting old, getting bitter and set in your ways, and now this junior comes and bothers you with all these new fancy tools that are of course just a fad that nobody wants, and they're just going to cause legacy because it's not the right way of doing it and stuff like that. All those things, when that starts to happen, it becomes a little bit tricky to stay motivated. Even in, it doesn't have to be a long project, it's just you've reached that magical moment in your career where you just do this as a job now, or you're getting a little bit complacent. And honestly, the way that I deal with those sorts of situations is as I said, the core of it is that I really like what I do. But apart from that, something that I find highly stimulating is that regardless of what I do, because some people think about a project as, you know, just as long continuous process of creating a holistic system, and I usually bring it down one level from that. And the way I think about it is that I don't necessarily get excited about the end state of my project, because I don't view things as there's an end state. Like, there is no project that will ever be completely finished in my mind. Or, I mean, very rarely that might happen, but on average in the larger companies, their system's going to be there for longer than I'm going to be there, most likely. But the thing that gets me excited is the same thing that it helps me make sure that I always write my unit tests, make sure that I refactor and Boy Scout, and like all these sort of things that I, you know, gets in when I get into the details of the craft. And that is that I get excited about doing a really great job on the code that I am working on, regardless of what that code does. I don't care what it is, because I genuinely like to figure out how to write nice clean functions, classes, APIs, UI components. It doesn't matter what it is. It's honestly the closest thing I can give you that will sort of illustrate for you what I feel is, imagine being a sketch artist or something like that, and you're just doodling on something. You still want the thing to look nice. Every time you sit down and you draw something and so forth, you just want that picture to look nice, and you get a fuzzy good feeling in your body when you like sketch something and it looks pretty cool and so, but it may not be the best thing in the world, it's never going to win any awards or anything like that, but it feels good that it looks nice. And I feel the same way. Same thing when, you know, you clean your apartment and you feel like, oh, it's really nice around here now. You feel sort of satisfied with yourself for doing it. I feel exactly the same way, and I treat my code exactly the same way. So exactly, there is no difference whatsoever. To me, I get mental, it's almost like meditation to write unit tests, because I know that if I write I have this interface, I created this function or whatever, and now I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write some tests, just, you know, take my coffee, chillax a little bit, and make sure that this thing is working and so forth and so forth. And I just enjoy that process. It's almost relaxing to me. And when it comes to really complicated projects, now the thing I like to say is that There are different types of complexities. There's bad complexity and there's, well, I find less bad complexity. My bad complexity is when I have to debug another goddamn Azure DevOps pipeline or GitHub Action or anything like that. I truly despise, and this is why I'm getting old and bitter, I truly despise having to figure out which combination of damn configurations the creator of my task or job, or it doesn't have to be that, it can be like a framework or a library. If you have made my life hard, so because I have to understand your documentation, because your coding is better than your documentation, and I still to this day cannot understand why the Azure, while everybody is working over at Azure and the SDK team that they have, feel that there's no need whatsoever to create example documentation of all their fucking SDKs. I don't understand that, because I hate working with such complexity where I have to basically just sit and try random shit out until I get the tool to do what it's supposed to do, because I'm too dumb to figure out what magic combination of options I need and stuff like that. That's not something I enjoy whatsoever, but I get really, really nerdy and excited when I have a really difficult problem to deal with. I can give you an example of a difficult problem that I faced fairly recently. Actually, I finished up the proof of concept. Well, it's almost finished today. So my organization was dealing with extremely long lead times. We're working with a team that handles an API gateway for all of our internal systems in the company, right? And for those of you who may not know it, an API gateway is just a way for you to basically create something similar to if you use like a GitHub's API or Google's API or Facebook's API and so forth. It's usually the case that you have some type of entry point into all the various systems behind the scenes that are doing all the work. So it's not like one single gigantic application that you go to every time anybody wants to make a call, right? Usually you have a whole microservices architecture, like that doesn't have the, like, let's just say a distributed ecosystem of services behind that gateway. So you and me, we external consumers, we connect to that single point, and then that routes us to whatever backend system they have within the ecosystem in the company. Same deal here, right? Now the problem we had that was expressed to me was that this process was very lengthy and very tiresome and so forth and so forth, and due to the way that basically the company is working. So I sat down and I said, okay, I think I should be able to fix that. I think I should be able to like create a solution, like basically an internal project that can handle this without any like extra overhead or anything complicated like that. And so I had to sit down and really think about it. Okay, so how would I remove all lead time and like use all the best practices and stuff like that to solve that sort of problem? And it's similar to, I had another project a few years ago where we had, this was more computational and problematic than anything else. We had basically we had a categorization algorithm that was needed to identify if something was a subscription or not. It was one of my favorite problems to work on. And the only thing we had was basically like a small object of data, like a data point that said a certain amount and a label, which was just an arbitrary string. It could have been anything, and some identifier, if I remember correctly now, right? So in essence, you only have the time it happened, how much the amount was that was paid, and a string that could be anything. And based on that information alone, we had to determine if something was a subscription. Now that might sound very simple, but it is actually very complicated, because if you try to, because costs can differ. You can have a subscription that starts out cheaper and then goes up in price after a certain amount of time, or you can have a deal on a certain time at a certain date or something like that, which reduces the price. You can't just go by cost. And the text in it, if you're lucky, it's always the same text. If you're unlucky, you're going to have to find like some type of web wizard who can find a regex that fits all the possible combinations of how that string can be formatted, because you don't know exactly how it's always going to be formatted. Sometimes, as I said, you're lucky. And so that it was a pretty difficult problem to solve, but it was a very fun problem to work on. So what I want you to take away from this is that I stay motivated easily, because first and foremost, I actually like what I do, and second of all, I am a similar person to the people who clean their apartment or go for a run and feel good about the fact that they exercised a little bit or something like that. It's those small things that makes the difference for me. I get genuine satisfaction and mental stimulation by I don't care if I have 100 work, like it doesn't matter to me if I have a million things to do and so forth, because right at that moment when I sit down and write some code, all I'm thinking about is how to make this implementation do exactly what it's supposed to do. I'm here, so I'm going to make sure that I have my test, and like just do it so. And treat every task that I pick up as just this little, as I said, it's like a little painting or anything like that. My goal isn't to make it absolutely flawless or be stressed out over the fact that there's a million other things to do. Right now, I'm giving my attention and my love to this piece of software, just as an artist would give the same sort of thing to sculpture or whatever. I'm now trying my best to, within my constraints, to make this a really nice thing, because I feel good when I know that I really I made sure that I wrote good abstractions, the names are good, there's tests for everything. I've done my job. It's all clean and nice now. Cool. It might be destroyed tomorrow, it might change tomorrow. That's okay. Right now, I did a good job. Cool. Let's put that in ready for code review. That is a process that I absolutely love. And I absolutely love even more to have to figure out really complicated problems. It's a different sort of thing. That first thing I was talking about, that gives me just calmness. It's basically meditation for me to write unit tests, as I said. Or, this is a good one. Try yourself to go to a static HTML site. They just create a static HTML file and then just sit with some static data. No APIs, no nothing, and just style it with CSS. I mean, honestly, that is basically Zen for me right there. But apart from that, really complicated problems are things that I go and like have to really go over in my head and really think about intensely. That's also something that I find a lot of stimulation from. And the best part is when you come up with a good idea and it turns out well. That is the absolute best part. You're going to have to fuck up a few times in order to get to that, unless you're really, really smart. Maybe you are. I was not, and I'm still not 100% sure I'm smart enough for all of this stuff that I have to do. But I have a lot of fun trying to figure it out. And those are my tips. Have a great day.